Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to First Touch. This is going to be the last episode before the spring major. I know you guys have been seeing it on Twitter. Everybody's flying in, getting ready to play some Rocket League here at the last major of the season. But First Touch, still going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown, a little bit of preview of everything happening in the Rocket League world. Dazzler, Roll Diz, and Tbates today. Gentlemen, how we doing? How we doing?
Chilling like always, man. Good morning. A beautiful Wednesday. Ready to talk about some Rocket League.
I'm ready to absolutely rip every single person who comes onto this show. We are 1 week away from the Boston Mage. I've been hearing everybody talking about EU about to dominate. I've been hearing on the channel waves, NA Hopium, Copium, where I'm here to let y'all know why and to give everybody detailed, analytical, factual-based knowledge. Spread it to the masses and let y'all interpret, bring it into yourselves, and then think about it. Probably because by the time next Thursday comes around, it's going to be one great major. I hope to see everybody there. Make sure to get them tickets. Before we get into the video, I just have to let all of you know that over 50% of our viewers, 50% are not subscribed to the channel. We are on the road to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we need your help to get there. So please hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and enjoy the video.
On that note, let's bring the guests in. We have Jorby and Johnny Boy joining us for the show today. We'll start with Jorby and Johnny. Gentlemen, how you guys doing after that?
I'm vibing. I'm just straight vibing, you know. Tbates, Roll Diz, Daz. It's always great to be on the show with you guys.
Who's coming on later that Bates is going to be ripping into? Like, is there more guests? I thought I was on the whole thing, but obviously not.
Yeah, you're on the whole thing. Jorby Johnny will be joining us for the whole show today. So I think he's talking about you, Johnny. I don't know.
Oh, I guess we'll see. But I mean, this is like freer than first class, and we saw how that went for Bates. So I'm not worried. Not worried.
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, well, we're going to definitely get into that. First things first, I need to take care of some order of business, and that is this Metsanauris retirement. Another GOAT ends up retiring this time. It is in Metsanauris. Let's take a look at Metsa's tweet. I'll end up reading that for you guys so you guys can see word for word exactly what's going on. He said he decided to retire from professional Rocket League after 6 years of competing at RLCS, talks about his achievements over the course of his career, and of course he thanks everybody for the support along the journey. They made the experience unforgettable for him. He also talks about what's next for him. He wants to stay involved in Rocket League because the game's given him so many unforgettable experiences, and he's still passionate as he was in 2015. He wants to become a coach and a manager for a team. He'll start coaching on Metafy, and he also wants to be involved in a podcast/interview series, whether it be his own or with other people within possibilities of time. He also want to do more content on YouTube as well. So obviously, you know, definitely some hearts in the chat for Metsanauris because he has, of course, retired, but also, he won't be gone. He won't be gone. He'll still be involved in the scene as like a coach and manager, or maybe even doing some content in terms of podcasts and interviews. So big ups, and also big shout outs to chat. I see you guys with the hearts in there, so we appreciate it. But that is, of course, the order of business there. Now, of course, we need to talk about probably something that's been a bit chatted about ever since the Spring Invitational, V1, or as the title suggests, VNOT at the major. V1 fails to make Boston, finishing 9th through 12th twice in the spring split. Obviously, in NAEU, this is the first team to win a regional event and not make the major. Man, let's start here with Jorby as we'll put the lowlights up. But Jorby, how do you feel about this?
Well, I remember, you know, the First Touch segment going into spring, how version 1 were they were listed as the 4th best team at the top 10 teams in the world or something like that before the split started. Immediately go 9-12, losing to Complexity and Furia. They do win the second event, and they looked great. I mean, that looked like the version 1 everybody was talking about, but then they went right back to business as usual in the Spring Invitational. They lost to Koi. Hello? Version 1 should not be losing to Koi. Say what you want about Koi. They're a decent team, but they're not version 1 number 4 best team in the world good at all. I think this was more than disappointing to have Daniel in Beast Mode on the same team and watching what they can do in 2v2, and they just weren't able to consistently translate it in the regionals. They got beat, and it was rough to see. I definitely expected more out of version 1.
What about you, Johnny? Is this kind of shocking for you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I thought V1 were going to be one of the teams for sure making it after their second regional win. I figured the momentum going into regional 3 would be enough to carry them at least into qualifying, maybe even as a first seed, because they were surrounded by teams who were failing as well. No one really looked clear in NA. Nobody looked dominant, so it was wide open for V1, and they just completely bottled it. I mean, there's no excuses. These guys are good enough that they should be mopping Koi, especially like the split that Koi had up to that point was nothing impressive at all. Koi were also underperforming, so it's not even a peaking Koi going into regional 3. That's unforgivable, and yeah, they've only got themselves to blame.
I mean, we kind of talked about it a little bit on First Touch After Dark, but obviously for some of those who haven't seen it, you need to see it. Raul, V1 not making it, thoughts?
I said it on FT After Dark, and I had a lot of back and forth conversation with the man to my you're right, chat's right. Yeah, Daniel. Obviously, there's a big problem here where his former team is sitting at the major right now, and they're actually getting ready to leave and go boot camp and perform, and Daniel is sitting on the couch or maybe on his gaming chair, still playing Rocket League. But he's not going to Boston. And there's a big problem here, especially when you have somebody I think I would consider beast mode even to be the face of that roster. Well, actually, Calm probably the face of the roster, like in terms of content and things of that nature. But if you're looking at star power, definitely beast mode. And then we had all these questions about Daniel and Zen. Like, yeah, I remember the beginning of the split, we kept talking about Daniel versus Zen. Who's going to have a better career? Who is this comparable with anything? Now it's not even a question anymore. Zen's clear. Like Zen's on his own way. He's made his first major. He's won 3 in a row, and we'll talk about him later. But you go back to V1 and you just think this is a team that even on FT After Dark, Tbates is bringing up. They will be the favorites from North America if they were to make the major because of what they look like on paper. But clearly the team isn't working. And clearly we need to stop evaluating these players on what they can do in twos, especially Beast Mode Daniel. They're fantastic individual talents. But if it can't be translated into threes, regardless of Calm being a third, Calm's a fantastic player, and he's one of the most facilitating players. He can open up so much space. This team should be an automatic qualification, and the fact that they're not is a massive disappointment for North America.
Base.
He just rambled for 10 minutes and did a whole bunch of nonsense. Nothing made sense. He wants to look at the camera so hard. Listen, I'm letting you know. Raul, looking at the camera hard doesn't prove your point. It just makes sure that people are staring into your soul. You're not staring into mine. Matter of fact, my soul was so empty during that soliloquy, I can't even remember what you just said. So is your brain.
Go ahead.
My brain's actually pretty full. It's actually full of playing knives. First off,
full of copium.
D1 choked against Koi. They choked against Koi. Simple and plain. You got to get the W against Koi. There's no questions about that. But V1 only lost like 3 series. Or 4 series. Or I guess everybody lost 4 series. But they lost to Complexity, Furia, and Koi.
What's your point?
They lost to 2 major teams and a non-major team. Like people are acting like V1, which is out there losing to nobody.
Now you can't now come back and say, "Oh, V1 lost to Furia." You can't come back now after all of what you talked about Furia all season, and now you're going to tell us that actually they lost to Furia. You've been saying Furia is not going to make a major, not going to make an international event for like this season or the next one. Like, how are you now saying they lost to Furia as if that's a good thing? You can't say that. You should be embarrassed that they lost to Furia. Like you said, Furia's never making a major in NA, and now they lose to they beat V1. You should be like, what? How are you losing to Furia? This team, I've said they're terrible. I believe they're terrible. They're not making a major. Actually, they did.
I said they're not making a major. I said they're going to finish about 6-7, and they won't be there.
The specific phrasing you used was NA figured them out.
They sure did
on this show.
Sure did.
Apparently, they didn't.
No, you can't just. But basically, you can't say all season Furia will not make a major, and then when they do, say, "Oh, but V1 lost to Furia, who made the major." You've been calling Furia terrible. They're saying they're not going to make the major. You can't now say V1 lost to a good team. You said they're
That
terrible.
armor's cracking,
And-
Bates. Please defend
No,
yourself.
the armor is not cracking off. One, I never said Fury is terrible. I said they weren't going to make the major. They proved me wrong.
You said they're not going to make any international events for like the next calendar
That
year,
doesn't
bro.
mean
That's
that
like
doesn't mean
not
they're
a good
bad.
result.
Doesn't mean they're terrible. It means the other teams are
If
better.
you're not make any international event from NA in a calendar year, that's awful. That's
Why you
embarrassing.
actually, no, you
Like,
say from
that
NA
is
as if
terrible.
NA is just a terrible region. NA is a great region. That's the reason that I didn't predict Furia to make it. 'Cause I thought there were teams that are better than Furia.
Yo, why you hold the laughing?
Clearly, Furia proved the Bates wrong. In the third regional, especially, they've improved. They've gotten better. They've gotten better to the point where they can jump from the 7-6 range in NA to now they're in the top 5. That's good. That's good for them. That doesn't make them a terrible team. That's number one. Number two.
No, that's what I've been telling you. I've been telling you they're a good team, but like you can't now tell us
They've
that
always
that's
been a good
quality
team.
loss.
You've been saying that
No,
they were a
you
great
can't call
team.
it a quality loss, though. I can call V1 losing to Fury a quality loss because I've been saying Fury is a good team. You've not though, so you can't say it's a quality loss. That can't be your argument. It just can't.
The question for the room: can you be a good team and not make a major?
That's not the question, though.
But
Like, that's getting away from what Johnny's saying.
No, it's
you
not.
have
Go
Tbates,
ahead.
you absolutely have all season been talking about how
gosh.
Fury are not good enough to hang in NA, that they should have moved back to South America, that NA had figured them out, so there's no point. Just go back to the region you dominated before because it was working. You're only good on land. You're never going to be good in this region. I think a lot of these words came out of your mouth specifically. So when Johnny's saying you can't say, oh, V1 3-0 against Furia, quality loss.
You can't
Like,
call it
especially with
quality
how
loss,
you've you've talked about Furia all season.
Oh, they reloading. They
These
on
are
you,
these are
boy.
the specific words. you use.
Chase the clip.
First off, Mr. Sam Lover, Furia having their little great split. They had a great split, won a regional. Congratulations. You want a cookie for that? They made the major one time. I got both of y'all down below me. If y'all trying to come at people, I got both of y'all down below. This is quoted, credited, bookmarked. You can go back and check the tweets. When they came over here, y'all said, oh yeah, this is gonna be free for them. Top 3 team in the world. Top 3 team in the world. There'll be other majors. And what happened? Not only did they make a roster change, you didn't predict that. Because y'all both said with the roster they currently have. Car, Kaio, and Yan, best top 3 player in the game. Car, Kaio. You saw they did the world championship. They're gonna walk in and they absolutely dominate. None of that happened. They had to switch the roster up, and then they actually have a great spring split. And now they're at the major. So y'all can't come for me and try to pick points when both of y'all were wrong from the get-go. And Bates is almost right about the whole entire year.
Almost right is
you're
crazy, bro.
No, I'm 66% right, but y'all are 30. Y'all no, I'm 60.
No, 55, 45.
No. I'm 66% right, and y'all are 66% wrong.
66%
Y'all had him at the major.
Wait.
Y'all had him at the major.
That makes sense.
Y'all had him at the major every single time. But the point is, I never said they were a bad team.
It's called a prediction, though. Like we predicted, I think Fury is going to make the major. I predicted Gen.G wouldn't in the fall, and then it was both wrong. Gen.G did. So they were a lot better than I expected. Furia struggled a lot more than I expected. Kaio got benched because he wasn't performing. There's nothing wrong with making a roster change when a team isn't performing or when a player's not performing. And then they had a bad first split, pressure's on, and now they've learned from that. They've improved. I think credit to them. It took a second try at it, but credit to them. They got the job done. They came back from like the trench that they were in. So I respect that. It takes a lot of guts, takes a lot of determination to come back from that kind of pressure.
I agree with everything you just said. Everything you're 100% correct. So I'm confused as why I can't say that losing to Furia is a good loss. I always thought they were a good team. I didn't think they were a great team, but they proved a great team online. I knew they could do it on land. I didn't think they were a great team online. Prove me wrong right there. But I think that's a good loss. That's a quality loss.
No, it's not though. Like the story you were telling us all year, V1, the super team, should mop Furia. Like Furia did not make LAN in the winter.
Well, they should.
V1
They
should
mop
not. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They should mop them. So like now you can't, in hindsight, say that's a quality loss when actually at the time it wasn't a quality loss. That was a terrible loss. That was embarrassing. That like how are you getting 0-3 by Furia, who have struggled the entire time they've played with this roster? That's not a quality loss. It's only a quality loss in hindsight.
Even if you did rate them evenly, like is a 3-0 a quality loss in general, even for 2 evenly matched teams? Like I don't like unless every goal was a 1-goal game overtime, I would hesitate to call any sweep a quality loss.
Like when Furia beat V1, Furia were not power ranked by anyone top 5 NA when they beat V1.
They
Complexity
won the
was
game
fair
2-1,
enough.
2-1, 2-0, Jorby. That's quality loss.
They got swept by a team who were not at the time considered top 5 NA and didn't even finish the event in top 5. They finished 6th place. So like, how's that a quality loss? You cannot be losing to a team who are in 6th place if you're the super team V1 trying to dominate the region. You have to win that every time. That's what Vitality did in Europe. They won every time in those kind of matchups. They did not lose to anyone but Carmine Corp one time. Beat everyone they're supposed to beat. Like, Complexity is fair enough that first time around, but the second time that V1 lose to Complexity, like Complexity were struggling big time. I don't know if you watched that series, but that, I don't know, Raze Bull like peaked, but apart from that, I didn't really see a lot of inspirational play from V1. I wouldn't call that a quality loss. I think they're probably devastated by that, and they've got a lot to learn from that, because it was anything but unlucky kind of situation. They were just bad. They just did not deserve to be at the major with the way they played.
Interesting. They just this gets to the staying consistent thing. They've only lost to me. They lost 2 major teams. Whether they were a major team, whether Fury was a major team then, whether Complexity is a major team, they're major teams now. They're both at the major. So they lost to 2 major teams. They lost to Koi.
Also lost to M80. 3-0.
They did beat M80.
Oh, sorry, they beat M80. Yeah, sorry.
No,
Yeah,
you can't just gloss over like
wrong.
a loss against Koi. That is completely like unforgivable. You can't lose that. You're the team who just won Regional 2. That is not a series you should be losing. I don't know if they look past them. I don't know what if they had any like internal issues that day, like behind the scenes. The fact is, they allowed 1 goal per game from Sosa, 1 goal per game from Cheese, and 1 goal per game from Gyro. They couldn't stop anyone.
It happens.
Like they were all scoring against them.
What do you mean it happens? This can't be one of the major favorites in your eyes and say that this happens.
How many teams is Gyro averaging a goal a game
It
against?
happened to BDS. BDS got swept by KC Pioneers, and then after that, you know what they did? They came back and became the RLCS World Champions. It happens.
But like, Bates, what do you think their mentality was when they lost to KCP? Did they just think unlucky? That's not fair. We should be in the final automatically because we're just that good.
They were probably upset and more mad at themselves. V1's probably upset and more mad at
themselves. If they're mad at themselves, why aren't you mad at them? You should be mad at them. If they're mad at themselves, you should be mad at them as well. If you're like a fan of the team.
I'm not
because that's unforgivable. You shouldn't lose that ever. And they're probably looking back and learning a lot from that because they're going to be furious about that loss. It's cost them the major.
Why should you be mad at them? You should be mad at them because V1 being at the major gives NA more slots, more chance at more slots at the World Championship. That's why you should be mad at them. If that's what you're arguing about, you were arguing about this on FC after how many spots can North America could possibly get? Well, V1 being the quality team and your favorite coming out of North America to obtain more spots or to make it the furthest at this major, you should be upset. You should be upset more than anybody.
Am I? What? No. Am I on the V1 payroll? Does V1 pay me? Why would I be upset?
It doesn't matter if they pay you. You want to see North America succeed. You should want to see V1 there.
Does North America pay me? Why would I be upset in North America?
I think North America does pay you, but I think they do pay you.
Like who pays me? Why would I be upset about version 1 not being there?
Interesting.
I'm not paid by nobody.
You are upset, but at the wrong people. You're upset at the format instead of like being upset at their performance. Like I don't get that. Why are you like upset at the format all of a sudden? And there's a topic on the sidebar about it in a second. Instead of saying like, what did V1 do wrong? Like what can they learn from this? Like why is it? I don't know why that's the story coming into today.
He's playing Neo right now. My man is doing the Matrix.
You're right. Yeah, he is. Interesting color choice do-rag today too. I knew we had the do-rag taste, but it's a very purple do-rag taste today. Let's go ahead to stay consistent. Should a regional win auto-qualify a team for a
100%
major?
yes. Don't even need to finish the question. Yes, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Why though?
I don't think
There's 66% of y'all who are wrong. Just like Johnny and Jorby. You couldn't make that up. You couldn't make that up. 66%
also voted no.
Listen, I had no idea that was the final. I didn't even know. I didn't look at it. I stopped looking at it once I saw 66. It's about 60% of y'all didn't know ball. Of course, the team who wins the region.
You're like, oh no, I need to like close the notifications on this. Mute tweet. I don't want to don't want to see it.
Nah,
Rubbing
if that was
salt
the
in
case,
wood.
I would have deleted it. But listen, I got a lot of pride. I got a lot of pride. Like show people. Of course, winning a regional should automatically qualify you for a LAN. You won a regional. There's only 3 of them. This is only NAEU specific, by the way.
Why
Well,
though? What's your reason? You can't just state that. Of course, it should happen.
Because
obviously, a lot of
winning-
people disagree. What's your argument?
Are
Why?
we valuing winning? Are we valuing being okay to good? Like winning. Winning is harder. Winning is harder in NAEU. It's harder to win a regional than it is to finish 6th or 5th every single time.
Is it harder to win or is it harder to be consistent?
It's
Not okay
harder
or
to
good,
win.
but consistent.
It's harder to win. It's definitely hard to win. If there's any pro that acts like it's not harder to win, they're actually lying to your face. They all know how difficult it is to win a regional in comparison to finishing 6th. The difference between Optic finishing. No, let me finish this thought. The difference between Optic finishing 4th, 5th, 3rd, or whatever, and finishing 1st is so substantial. 1st is different. That is a different level. That means you were the best team of these 4 days or 3 days of the regional. Why are we taking that away from people?
Wait. So hold on. So you're saying the thing that's the most difficult should determine who qualifies. You want it to just be about what is the hardest thing to do. You think winning a regional is harder to do than finishing top 4 3 times or top 6 3 times. I don't know. I think Optic were 6th.
Yes, because winning is
I
harder.
think we're 3rd twice and had 1 6th place finish.
3rd,
Yep.
and then 5th, 6th.
It was Open 3rd, Cup 6th, Invitational 3rd.
But the
SSG
fact
as well.
is, it's actually the fact that this has never happened before. No team has ever made the final. Never mind win, as far as I am aware. No team this season has made a regional final in EU or NA and then failed to qualify. So if you're talking difficult, it's actually statistically difficult not to qualify. They have to lose so early 2 times to not qualify because the points are so top heavy in this format. You get so many points for winning a regional that it is actually difficult to not qualify, and they've managed it because I say they've got to do really badly twice. They did really badly twice, so they don't deserve to go. I don't think it's as black and white as should winning a regional qualify you for LAN. I actually don't think that Tbates' opinion is completely wrong. I think there is an argument for it, but I don't think that's the argument. The things I would not like about it is Complexity won the first regional. They could just take a break. They would be like,
But they're
right,
not going to though. That's not how.
But
that's
I'm
not,
saying they could though. They could take a break.
But they're not though. We don't
But no, hold on.
that's
But the
okay,
fact
go
that they
ahead.
could is a bad thing. That is not good for competitive integrity. Because what if Complexity are okay, we've qualified, then they're round 1. Whoever gets them round 1 in the next regional has an easier matchup because Complexity are just chilling.
They're not chilling though.
Well, I know some teams. I don't want to name names, but some teams would chill. Some teams in NA, in fact, were chilling coming into this last event for some reason, even though they weren't qualified. So imagine how chill some teams would be if they were qualified after winning Regional 1. That just gives their opponents easier matchups.
They're not
in
winners
the future
then.
regionals.
And also, why does it
But
matter
no,
though? At the end of
it's
the day,
about the opponents though. If you luck into a draw against a team who are already qualified, you've got an easier matchup than a team who have been grinding 4 scrims a day for the past 2 weeks, fighting for their life. And I think that's just bad for competitive integrity, bad for entertainment value. And I think, you can't downplay what Optic did. They had to win how many series in a row?
I'm
where
not
their life was on
downplaying
the
Optic.
line?
I just
That's
used
difficult.
Optic as an example.
But you talk difficult, that's difficult. What Optic did, they had to fight so many times with their life on the line. That's difficult.
What's more
Winning against
more
Koi,
difficult?
not difficult.
What's
come
more
on.
difficult is
It's not.
dropping 3 games the whole entire tournament and then winning it. That's
Okay,
more
but
difficult.
they did that one time. They
Okay,
didn't
there's
do it
only
multiple
3
times.
instances.
What about
So-
okay? What about
Okay, if you're ever
what
doing
about
the
your,
law of averages, though, if there was a 4th regional, then V1 would win it. Because they
that's not-
went
okay.
9-12,
That's complete
9-12.
speculation. That's
Okay,
baseless speculation, and it doesn't.
But that
and-
just they got a further placement though. Also, I want to address Johnny's point before you go about the statistical difficulty of not making it, which that even helps my point even more because the statistical difficulty of not making it. So why not just guarantee it?
Well, for the reason I just said, competitive integrity and entertainment value. You got to remember
competitive integrity is at stake when everybody knows the bracket already. That competitive integrity is at stake the whole entire weekend. If I'm in A players, I would have tossed. So I make sure I know where I'm landing in the bracket. I'm tossing. And I like that's competitive integrity. That's the real competitive integrity. I would much rather be on X side of the bracket than I'll be on the other side of the bracket. That's the real competitive integrity. What if I've already earned my spot? I did that. I control my own destiny. If you're worried about me going easier on you, so be it. That's a problem.
It's not about worried about them. It's because it's possible. It shouldn't be possible for a team to qualify and then play in future regionals. So the only way that it is actually
that happens
in my
already.
Opinion, I actually ran this in a tournament years ago on my channel, Saltmine 2 qualifiers. Like players did qualify by winning one of the qualifiers, but the stipulation was they do not play in qualifier 2, 3, 4 because they've already qualified. If a team's qualifying for a major by winning regional 1, they should not play in regional 2 and 3. Because that is just bad for competitive integrity, bad for entertainment value. Nobody wants to see a team that's already qualified play compared to teams that are fighting for their qualification. It's just
Have you
not
always had this
interesting.
opinion, even when teams qualify after regional 2?
I just told you I did this format in one of my own tournaments I ran years ago. So yes, I thought about this years ago, and I'm still saying the same thing. If you win a regional and you want it to be to qualify you for an event, that team should not play in regional 2 and 3, and that would ruin the whole circuit format because now they're not actually able to win points in regional 2 and 3, so it doesn't work. And that's why my answer to your question: should teams qualify by winning a regional? No, because it doesn't work with a circuit. They need the points from regional 2 and 3, and their opponents should not have the benefit of playing a team who have already qualified.
But we've already had teams that have qualified after regional 2.
Yeah, we have.
Right, because of consistent high placements.
But that doesn't address Johnny's point, though.
No, that doesn't
alleviate Johnny's point.
Question. No, that's a good question. We have had teams qualify after 2 regionals, and that is why you're not just playing for qualification, you're also playing for seeding. How do you seed a tournament if you're qualified after 1 event?
The points would still matter. The points still matter. The points matter for seeding, and the points matter for your worlds. You're still competing. Just because you win, if you win, say V1 won, they will be the 5th seed. They have the least amount of points out of everybody.
Nah, it doesn't work though, because you can't just say teams will try hard for seeding, therefore it's fine. You can't just say that. We know these
They're trying hard for seeding and for money. And to make sure that they're still on top of their game. They're competing. They're putting in tens of thousand hours.
So okay, who do you think tries harder? A team who are qualified already, or a team who have still got to qualify? Who's trying harder in the preparation for that week? Who's putting in more work? A team that's already qualified, or a team that's still got to fight for qualification?
That's a bad question.
I'm sure we can agree on that because that's a really simple answer.
Sure, yeah, but I mean, it seems like a simple answer, but that's a bad question though. It depends on the professionalism of the team. If they're a really great team, they're going to try hard no matter what.
That's a nice dodge there in the question. I think it's a simple question.
All right, Jorby.
What?
You had stuff to say. I kept cutting you off. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, aside from Johnny's points about the point system and needing those for proper seeding and everything, and also not having a team play consistently, is it right to judge a team's performance in a split based off of one regional? You won one regional, great. Can you do it again though? Can you consistently place high again? Or why would we reward a team for doing good one time on one weekend where everything was clicking? Maybe some other teams weren't clicking as well. The whole point of playing 3 regionals is to figure out who is the most consistent. Because sure, you beat complexity on a good day and on complexity's bad day. But how about next weekend when complexity are playing a little better and you're not playing as well? The consistency is the most important factor to figure out who the best teams in your region are. Anybody can peak on the right weekend, but to be consistent, to get consistent high placements, that is more difficult. And that's where your best teams come alive. That's why everyone loves Swiss, right? People love Swiss because Swiss, usually ekes out the worst teams before we get to the playoff bracket. Then you're left with the top 8 teams, single elimination, go at it. And the way we came about those top 8 teams is who was consistent throughout the matches, not who was the quality of opponents that you beat in Swiss, but how consistently were you winning in your matches. To me, consistency is the most important factor in figuring out who the best teams are.
You don't win a major, major is right too, but you also don't win a regional without being consistent for them 3 days.
Well, V1 did.
They were consistent. That's what I'm saying. They were. You don't
For
win
one
a
weekend.
regional.
Oh, 3 days,
But-
sure, but I mean, they won it while being inconsistent. So I mean, it's possible. They've done it.
So
Like,
so y'all basically value the regionals more than y'all value the majors, because the majors and the world championship are essentially who's on at that time, which is what it all comes down to. It's about who's on at the time.
Well,
it's
the
like
regionals
it's
are
like
qualifiers.
when you're running 100, when the Olympics come on next year and people run 100 meter, they train hours upon hours for 10 seconds of their life. Like, I don't care who's more consistent throughout the whole entire year. People don't know this. Back in 2012, before Usain won, Usain was losing all the time that year, losing to everybody. But then he won the Olympic 100 meter. He was the best in the game. He won when it mattered.
But the regionals are qualifiers, bro. They're qualifiers. Qualifiers are supposed to be robust formats that are good at finding who the most consistent top 5 teams are. And then the winter major, or the spring major coming up, is a one of one.
The consistent doesn't mean best, though.
It's technically a qualifier for Worlds, but like it's a LAN. Like it does. You don't need to run 3 spring majors to find out if the best team, the most consistent team, actually won. No, it's about who's good on the day, who's good on the weekend. But like regionals are qualifiers. That's why there's 3 of them. That's why there's more than one. Is because you need to run it a few times to find out who the best teams are.
Are there not more storylines if a team can qualify automatically?
I mean,
compared
not
to
really,
the
because
Invitational?
not really
Because the NA Invitational was an anomaly. That's never happened before. So like the statistics don't back that. Most of the time, we usually have at least one team qualified, and if they're not already qualified, then I'm talking about by the time 3 comes around. If they're not already qualified, they're very close to qualifying. So like they just really have to do the bare minimum. I'm just.
Bro,
I'm not seeing the entertainment.
All you have to do is beat Koi though. Like you're acting
No,
like
they did. They had to go further than Koi.
Okay, but if they beat Koi, then they would have had an easier lower round 2 matchup. That's the point. They wouldn't have had complexity. They had complexity because they lost to Koi. But the regionals are qualifiers, bro. Like the reason there's more than one of them is because you want to consistency should be rewarded. That's the entire point.
Are we trying to see the best teams in the world? Or are we trying to see the teams who are the most quote unquote consistent?
You get so many points from winning. That is rewarded. It's not like a participation award.
I don't know, man. I value winning.
I mean, it's basically an
consistent
auto-qual team.
equals
Just
best.
don't finish 9th through 12th twice. That's
The region's
simple
good.
solution.
There's 9 really good teams. 10 arguably. And there's people outside that are decent. And this goes to NA or EU.
Come on, man. Come on. Like no, like even if you're stretching it to 10 really good teams, which we don't need to go into that right now, but Koi is not one of those teams.
They're a solid team. They can pull an upset on a team if you're sleeping on them. That's not a bad.
So
regardless.
You're saying V1 were sleeping? Like, was that the issue?
They could have been sleeping.
Maybe they were looking past them. Maybe they looked past their opponents, which is a mistake that they should learn from. That should be like the topic. Did V1 look past Koi? Not should the format be changed so that a loss to Koi is like allowed.
I don't know, man.
It's unforgivable. You can't lose to Koi, who are coming into this event as well, 13th seed.
I don't think consistent equals best. When consistent is just consistent doesn't equal best. Those two, it's just not the case. Now, vitality is different because they're consistently the best. But
that's pretty consistent.
Yeah, but they're consistently the best. Like, it's no argument that they're the best. But being just solid, like anybody could just be solid,
well, okay,
bro.
Who didn't deserve the spot then? Who did V1? Who should V1 V1 spot belong to out of the 5 teams from NA?
It don't matter. I can say whichever 3 team, all 3 of them that didn't win.
Genji,
so there's 2 teams that won.
Space Station.
2 teams that won.
Don't deserve it as much as V1, you think?
Not in my eyes, no. I don't think finishing second, nobody's gonna remember that. You finished first. Nobody's gonna remember finish third. Nobody's gonna remember finishing fourth. Nobody cares if you finish 5th. It's about winning first. 9th and 12th might as well be the same as 5th in my eyes. Like it's
What?
about winning. I'm talking about from a competitor standpoint. Now, obviously, from points and making sure the system works. Obviously, there's a distinction. You finish 5th, you get more points, of course. But from a competitor standpoint, bro, you're the first or you're last, bro. Like I won.
Thank goodness you're not making the format, or it would be very binary. It would be like you won the event.
I didn't say anything had to do with the format. I'm talking about from a competitor standpoint, bro. I won.
This leads us into the flip part of this, which is should winning a major auto-qualify a team for Worlds?
100% yes again.
Bates, listen, you have
I'm
flipped
saying-
on that one. You flipped
No, I
on that
didn't.
one.
I've always been consistent. Cause we talked about this on your stream. You
No,
said
actually,
no. Cause
no,
you said
I've got
fall
fond of
doesn't. You
this.
said fall doesn't. I said fall should. You said no. It should just be spring.
Hold on. Like I know probably a lot of live chat right now. We're not listening, so we were chatting. Myself and Tbates were chatting to Rise while watching Regional 3 of NA. It was a good time, and I told you I explained the scenarios of V1 not making Worlds to you. I said if Furia and Optic both make top 8. At the Spring Major, V1 don't make Worlds. You said that's ridiculous. Why is Spring Split worth more? Well, you know what would be worth more than that is winning the event and auto-qualifying, which is actually something I said would be a good thing to you. And now you agree, but at the time you adamantly argued no, that it shouldn't be because it doesn't favor V1. I've got video evidence of this, so be careful. Tread carefully.
You can try to. You can video evidence. You can video evidence all you want because you completely taken my words out of context, and that's incorrect. I'm talking about. What me and Johnny were talking about was the spring split being worth more points. It's worth 50% more points than the fall. I find that to be, as Johnny was talking earlier, I find it to be competitive integrity. I don't like that. I don't like how the fact that spring, just because you're playing closer to the world championship, that means more than the fall. To me, you don't deserve more points just because you're playing you're playing really solid in the spring in comparison to the fall. If that's the case, you might as well get rid of the fall. Because what's the point of it?
You win points in the fall. That's what's the point.
Yeah, but you don't win as many though. You're not. I'm winning 50% less. So you're weighing the spring more in the fall. There's no equality in that. It's not equal. I don't like that. I don't find that. I find it to be completely. That just doesn't work. And so that's what me and Johnny were talking about. In terms of winning the major, that's equal. If the fall major, the winter major, and the spring major, if whoever wins that all qualify, that's equal. That works completely fine.
It's terrible. It's terrible, bro. Like that's just no. Like fall major should not qualify a team. Winning that should not qualify a team.
It's part of the season.
Yes. Spring major, yes, because there would always be a Cinderella run possibility. Even if a team farms in the spring split, like Team Liquid last season, like Hogan will this season, there would be a chance, a realistic chance, if they can win the event, they snag a world spot. I like that because. It leaves the door open to a team that's in form because Worlds is right after Spring Major. The teams who are in form should be, rewarded more points. It's a more relevant split. The Spring Split is literally more relevant. Like your team, it could be, 67% different players by the time the Spring Split rolls around from fall. Like, why should points
the two
back then
teams
be worth
that were
as
in
much?
the grand final, okay, well, they had a good spring split, but the two teams that were in the grand finals had a terrible spring major. Grand finals of the world championship, they had a terrible spring major. That's the most, according to you, that's the most recent tournament. So that most recent tournament should lead to X result. BDS and G2 both in the grand final. I think like that more relevant thing. It's a whole season for a reason.
Though they both switched players from the fall. They did.
No,
that's what I was gonna say.
I know that.
They both switched players from the fall, bro. So like, why is the fall going to be worth the same when you can just switch players and now you're a completely different team? Why do you deserve the points to be worth the same?
Oh wow, that's a chat poll there.
Chat's wrong too.
My question about this is a team that at fall makes 2 roster changes. Who does that spot go to? Think of Moist, for example. Moist was in the grand finals. Rise, Astral, Joyo, they're all different teams now. Who gets that spot?
Whoever's next up in points.
You would just do points. It's a very simple fill.
Oh, so you just give it to people.
Yeah,
in points.
it just goes to points.
Highest.
But a team wouldn't do it anyways. A team wouldn't why would they ever jeopardize themselves like that? That's insanity.
Hold on. Tbates, stuff like this season, just to make it realistic for people to understand, transfers like Rise joining BDS would probably not happen if Spring Split wasn't worth more. There would be less incentive for teams to try and make a world's winning team, which is not a good thing. Like, it's just not.
Wait, no, well, it is a good thing. It's a good thing for the players.
Less competitive.
It's a good thing for the players because then they have more stability in their own livelihoods, which is a great thing for Rocket League. That's a great thing. Also, if a team pushes for, if a team wants to make that push, it's a gamble, but at least you have a chance. There might be a team who has had absolutely no chance going in, like they can't make it, such as a Liquid or something like that. Well, this is yours because you agree on the Spring Split. That might want to go all in, and they make a great team, and they just absolutely come all the way. A team could completely scrap it and then make a completely new team after the fall or after the spring.
What if they suck?
I just think it's entertaining. Like we've got to remember, we're running an entertainment product, and we've got to be competitive.
That's what I'm saying. Is like
it does that.
What if? So you got a team in the fall, wins the fall major, and then just sucks for the rest of the season.
Exactly.
Do they deserve that reward?
They won the 3 majors. What's the why is the major a points grabber? Why is it not I win?
Because
I win. I qualify for the biggest. Consistency does not equal best. Consistency
equals best more than winning and then not doing anything.
I will say this, being consistently 9 through 12 is not the best, right? But being consistent, like placing high consistently, I think is the more accurate way of saying it, because you can win one time, but if you finish low every other time, like, first of all, not consistent. Second of all, nobody's calling you the best at anything. So like you don't even meet either category there. But if you place high consistently, like your space stations, like your optics, like your Furias, then that's a little different. I think that consistently high placements are really what I'm talking about when I mean that consistent teams are your best teams. And typically the best teams that go to the major place high consistently, and those teams always perform really well at the majors. Your 1 through 3 seeds make it deep. They're really entertaining. Rocket League, I mean, we saw what happened in San Diego with FaZe versus K-Corp, right? Like those were your most consistent teams in the regionals because they placed high consistently. K-Corp didn't pop off for one regional, go 9 through 12, and then go to the major. That's not what got them there. What got them there was consistent winning. Consistent winning is valued over just winning one time. So if teams are placing higher consistently than other teams, why does that one team who placed higher one time out of 3 events, why do they deserve it over anybody else who consistently placed higher than them each time?
They won 1 of 3 events. There's only 3 of them. There's only 3 winners. They're the 3 biggest events outside of the World Championship. I won that event. That means that I should automatically qualify for the biggest event. Well, the seed of that then gets determined through the consistency lens that y'all are talking about. If that team's that great in the fall and then they fall off, that means they're gonna get a lower seed. But if they're,
I have a very hard time believing that if Furia had won Regional 2, basically if you switch Furia's and V1's results, if Furia were the team that went 9th, I don't think any of this conversation would be happening right now. I think this is like a V1 thing as much as it is like a format thing for you, Bates. I'm going to be completely honest. Like, I think if Furia did what V1 just did, you would be highlighting, there would be a whole disaster class montage of Furia losing to Koi. And we'd be talking about how inconsistent they are and how the one win was a flash in the pan Mickey win. Like,
well, unfortunately, this isn't the Spider-Verse.
So much leeway. I don't do that.
I can't cross another dimension to look at that dimension. You're in a world that doesn't exist. So I don't know what that looks like. Maybe you're right. Maybe Tbates in Dimension 1607 is saying that right. Isn't saying anything. And Johnny Boy in 1607 is like, Bates, how come you're not mentioning it now? Yeah, but maybe it is. But right now we're in Tbates Universe 42, and in this dimension,
Tbates Universe 42.
The winner's split. Like, go listen to yourself talking about Fury losing a Ghost and how unforgivable it is that if you're as good as people say you are, you should never lose that series, and that is completely ridiculous to lose to a team that aren't even a top 10 team. Now, if V1 lost to Koi, and the narrative is completely different, why are they being given such a wide berth?
Well,
It
so the
should
difference
be,
is,
the same amount of like aggression when you talk
I
about
heard
V1.
that Furia propaganda all the way from spring 2022 up until winter, whatever month that is that I said that, and I was about tired of it. I was waiting to see. I got nothing but hate. I got nothing but a hate for basically a whole entire year, and this team still hadn't performed. So of course I'm gonna let a little bit out at that point. A little bit like, yeah, Base knows what he's talking about, but then they put me wrong in the spring. So it happens.
Yeah.
It
They
took
did
them a
the
year.
same thing though. They had one bad split. They got lost. They had one bad split. Now V1, they got Daniel. They had one bad split. It's literally the same thing. But the narrative around Furia's failure and V1's failure are not the same. Like it sounds very different. It sounds like you want to change the format for V1, but you don't want to change the format for Furia. There was no talk about how Furia lost a head-to-head, and the tiebreaker was head-to-head. If V1 lost that, I reckon it would be like, why is head-to-head the tiebreaker? Tiebreaker should be game diff or something.
No, head-to-head should always be the tiebreaker. I won. I'm very consistent about winning.
So much leeway though. Like they do not deserve that, and they themselves would not want that because they're competitors, and they're probably like in the lab right now trying to improve and hoping that they qualify for Worlds to show that it wasn't like all they're going to be as a trio. But in the meantime, no, the truth is they don't deserve to qualify. They're the only team to win an event and not qualify, showing how like difficult it is. You have to be so consistently bad in the other two events after winning an event to not qualify. And they pulled it off. Like,
I have a question. Roll this. Do you think winning a major should auto-qualify a team for Worlds?
I think winning a major should. Yes.
Oh, just any of them?
Yes.
I think it should.
Fall major? Like, why?
I go back to how BDS. We were calling BDS so fraudulent for performing so terribly at the majors, and then they just pull up and win Worlds. Like, how do we quantify anything if they just like don't do well at a major and then show up to Worlds and win it? Like, and then after they win Worlds, people are trying to disqualify them for winning Worlds because they're like, oh, they just won Worlds. It was like a fluke.
It was like a fluke. Yeah, they tried to take it away from them. People are taking away winning too much, bro.
Like, who tried to take it away? I didn't hear anybody try to take away BDS.
There was a lot of people that were calling that a fluke.
Were saying G2 better and everything. And listen, I didn't even go that far. I'm not that crazy. I understand.
I didn't hear anyone say that,
winning
which
is
is
winning.
kind of lucky.
Winning is winning. So I mean, like, I won, bro. It's really hard to win, bro. I don't think people. It's harder to win than it is to just be consistently good. Like, I don't know. It's even harder to win and still be consistently the best. That's why Vitality, Carmine, those type of teams are just crazy. But winning in general is harder than finishing fifth, harder than finishing fourth, and we're not rewarding that at the moment. That's not.
No, we are. We give them more points. You get way more points actually for winning. That's the reward.
I need security. I need security blanket.
V1
Why did V1 need a security blanket?
They just needed two top eights and a first place finish to make the major. That's all they needed. It's hard to make top 8. That's all they needed.
Is
it hard to make top 8 for version 1? Your fourth best team in the world coming into the spring split.
Hey man, yeah, was your best? Fury was your best team, top 4 team in the world. It took them a year. It took them a year to make the major, bro. They were a top 4 team.
Yeah,
they're top 4 team in your eyes.
We're not going into all that right now. We can go into that right. We can go into top 4 teams, all that. Can we talk about top 5 players, please? Obviously, it's a split debate. Y'all can let us know how you feel about that online anywhere else. FT's top 5 players at the major reveal. Tweet your at First Touch RL with your top 5 lists. I believe we've had a couple tweets over the course of the ever since that tweet went out. I think Johnny
can we roll those first?
If we can, let's do it. I'm down for that. Because
if it's
of course,
set the other way, we can do it the other way. It don't matter.
Yeah. We got Johnny Boy with Zen, Vatira, Alpha, Monkey, and Rodosin.
Absolutely terrible list.
That's like you think I'm farming, but I consider this the coldest take I've ever had. This is like the freezing cold, boring, like easy prediction. Like I wish I had the confidence to predict anything interesting, but the truth is this is just what's going to happen. It's just obvious. Top 5 going into the major, top 5 at the major. I mean, same thing.
No, it's crazy. You know, it's crazy. If we had FaZe or V1 there, that list might look a little different.
Depending. I mean, depends what kind of V1. If
This
V1
might
won
look a
regional 3,
little
then
different,
sure.
Johnny. Don't lie, Johnny.
No,
Don't
like,
lie.
what kind of V1 though? If V1 scraped in, if they lost to Koi
mean to
and
tell
then
me
they
that
got
Beast
in
Mode
off
wouldn't be
other
on this
teams
list?
choking, I don't think I would have anyone of the team on
Insanity.
the list if they scraped in. But if they won regional 3, then yeah, I probably would because I would think that's a consistently good team. But not ninth, first ninth. Like, come on, you got to do
What the
better than
heck?
that to get
What the
a
heck
list
is
like this.
There's not 3 players on one team that are all in the top 5, bro. It's not possible. It's
Are
not
you watching the
possible.
same game as me? Did you not
I'm
see what they
watching.
just did?
Look at Gibbs.
Gibbs,
no, he
Zen,
gave himself a
Vasir,
challenge.
Monkey,
What did he
Otto,
say?
and Jafino.
Yeah,
He
he
said,
he
I'll
made
make it
a
a bit more
challenge.
fair for NA. Only one player from each team.
Yeah.
There's no
Otherwise,
NA
he would have done the
players.
same as me.
I love that. Oh, Gibbs.
Happy birthday to Jafino, by the way. He did turn 18.
Now, Jorfinho's a very good player.
Mhm.
I like it.
Let's see what next two we have. I believe next
Whoa,
one is
AJ.
Real Jar.
AJ?
AJ, Vatir, Zen, Roas, CRR.
See, finally somebody with some creativity. I like this. I
That's
like this.
respectable.
Creativity.
Yeah, I like some
Yeah,
creativity
it's-
with the
I mean,
list.
don't
it's
think-
not going to age well, but I like the creativity. I agree.
Oh no, it could definitely age well. It could definitely could. All right, but that's all theirs. That's all theirs. Do you like their list or do you like our list? I got a question. I want to ask everybody. Do y'all think Zen is on my list?
Wait, stop. Wait,
All right.
wait until your face is up
I
on
didn't
the.
realize
on
you were
the-
doing it this way. Go ahead, Lord. My bad.
Let's roll it. What we got? Number 5.
Wait, do
Is
you
it
not
5?
know?
Oh, it's number 1. It's Vatira. I got Vati at number 1. I didn't
Oh
know
my
what if it was
gosh,
1 to
bro.
5. I'm putting Vati there. Difference between Vati and my number 2 is that Vati's won a major. And I need to see
Are you-
how.
Oh, so
Homeboy
winning does matter,
at the-
huh?
at
That's
the
crazy.
major.
All right.
Well, when it does matter, yeah, it does. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
it matters
Can
a lot.
we get number 2 on the screen, please? Please don't have technical difficulties. I got Zenny. Give me Zenny, of
Oh, we might as well
course.
just roll the whole list. It's programmed backwards.
Yeah, facts. Big
Backwards.
facts. You already
Let's go-
you need to flip flop something already.
Let's go to 3. Give me Alpha.
I like it. I
Alpha
like it, Daz. Keep it
54.
going.
My goodness.
Keep it up, Daz.
Fan.
He's
Oh,
on
I
a
put it
roll.
4. Let's just see it. Oh, I got Johnny hyping me up too. My goodness. Give me the
Oh,
monkey.
he's so good at this.
Oh my
Come on.
goodness. Your favorite color must be blue now, huh?
Keep going.
Complete the
My
sweep.
favorite color
Complete
is
the
blue.
sweep.
Give me 5.
Complete the sweep.
Oh,
That'll do. I don't mind it.
That's crazy.
talk to me,
That's
bro. Talk
jokes.
to me.
He's
Talk
next.
to me.
That's funny.
It's not crazy.
Close
I think a couple of those names could have been flipped to different spots, but that's not that bad. It's not that
It's,
bad.
it's interesting. It's interesting.
Where was
This
Monkey?
is, this is sad. We call a whole EU list not that bad.
That's interesting. No, it's bad. It's bad. But it's disrespectful.
In the gutter, man.
It's disrespectful. No, go ahead, bro. Put your whole entire EU list up there too, bro.
Come on,
Go ahead.
let's get roll business.
Yeah,
Put your
let me
whole entire
get my
list up
EU
there.
take on this. You know what I'm saying? The major region.
I need my
major
list to
region
be
lists
programmed
only.
backwards.
Where we at with it? Where we at? Number 1. You know I can't put a certain somebody on there. It's got to be this kid. This kid that came in, won 3 in a row. He is the impact player. We talk about it day in day now. The Daniel versus Zen. It's not even what happened. Zen, money go. Shout out to you, baby. Number 2. Oh. Is something missing there? I don't. You know what? Use your imagination, chat. Number 2 is there for you. All right, number 3. Alpha 54. Hey, 2 players on the same team. This is Alpha says he's LeBron to Zen's Kyrie. Currently, right now, Alpha. You know, you got the mechanics and everything, but I think Zen is the reason you guys are winning everything,
no.
or one of the main reasons. He joined the team. He's that impact player. He's gonna perform. Y'all might win the chip this time around. Number 4, Atal.
Hey.
Atal. I got Atal.
He's on one.
Atal. Yeah, this kid's different. He's
Atal,
different.
yeah.
Team Liquid. We had a battle between Oski, Atal, a Chronic being Metal Man. He's that 3rd man. He sits in the back. He holds it down. You know what I'm saying? But this kid, he's different. When he's on. Dangerous, mechanical monster. Number 5. What did I finish out with? Hey, we gotta add a little NA to it. You know what I'm saying? A little NA to it.
Oh, bro, this you're doing
Come
so
on,
well. But you have to
okay,
put,
look.
you have to put
All I'm
an L
gonna
in
say
your
is,
list, bro. L.
No, this doesn't ruin anything.
L list.
Somebody sitting on the couch. I hinted at him earlier in the stream. If you wasn't here, go back and check that out. But LJ, he's finally unleashed, and yeah, he's gonna show out this major.
I mean, LJ's good, but 5?
No, that number
Yeah,
200.
five.
I believe
That's,
that.
I don't know.
that's a deep
I
run.
thought
Your
that's
list
pretty
is
crazy.
terrible
It's
too.
prediction.
Your list is terrible
Oh,
too.
but it's not terrible when we mentioned Drufinho, huh, Jorby?
What's that? Oh, well, no, Jorfinho was funny. That was just funny.
Oh, okay.
Also,
Oh,
I
but the
love
Material
Jorginho. He's a great
Invisible
player.
wasn't funny. Material Invisible was more
Oh,
funny.
Material Invisible was peak.
was funny.
100%.
That was terrible.
I
That
did
was
not expect
terrible
that.
list, bro. That's just interesting. Don't worry. Base always comes with the facts, though. I always come with the facts. You already know where I'm going. You already know where I'm going. Where am I at?
Yeah,
I still haven't got my solo
alpha
cam.
number 1. I'm predicting alpha number 1.
Waiting on the sheets
super
update.
I'm
Dear
expecting.
Lord, here we go.
Definitely expecting LG on this.
No, it's
list.
Alpha.
This is
Alpha's
all-
number one.
This is all
number
NA
one.
list.
Alpha's number one, and then
Nah,
it's
he
going
might-
NA.
He might put Vatira number 1. Vatira alpha 1, 2, and then he's gonna go.
No, Vatira's not one, Johnny.
AJ
Vatira's
on his
might be
list.
2. Alpha's 1. Vatira's probably 2.
I'll see.
Okay,
It's like
yo,
Vatira
get this man
alpha
his
in
full
there.
screen, big.
Yeah, please, come on.
She broke, bro. I don't know, man. See, listen, my list is just so good that nobody needs to see it. Oh,
LJ
look
will
at
be
this.
in there.
Anyways, all right, check it out. Number 1, Vatiro, of course.
Told you.
I'm waiting
Best
for Hotza
player,
to pop up.
best player in the game. No question about that. Anybody who questions that, you don't know ball. He's the best player in Rocket League for a reason. Constantly winning, 2-time major champion. Looking for his 3rd. Vatira, number 1, of course. Land performs. Number 2, please, Alpha 54.
I told you this is so predictable.
Alpha 54, one of the best players in the game, has been since the moment we started playing the game. Added Zen to the roster. Added Zen to the roster, and listen, the results speak for themselves.
He's gonna
Also,
say, "Give me
last time
LJ."
in the winter split, Alpha averaged 400 before, and at LAN he averaged 450. He elevates on LAN time. Second best player at the LAN. Give me number 3. Give me number 3, please.
He's gonna
It's
go
definitely
LJ.
going to be.
AJ.
Oh,
Give me
AJ.
number 3,
I
AJ.
knew it.
I was
Hey,
gonna
give
say
me-
AJ 4. AJ was gonna be 4.
AJ, you know why? Because he's playing the best Rocket League he has ever played. Johnny has hyped him up for a long time. Ever since we started doing our list, I'm like, Johnny, he's not on that level. You keep gassing him. He's on that level right now. AJ playing the best ball. What was it? He broke that goal record in during the regionals 3 times, something like that. Optic's a good team, but they're led by AJ. It's so clear. The offense goes through him. It's giving Daniel SSG vibes, and it makes sense. AJ playing the best Rocket League he's played ever in his life. Number 4.
You didn't put this here?
I don't know what Money Moon is, but yeah, Monkey Moon.
Money Moon.
But Monkey Moon is he's defender and world champion, finally back on the LAN stage. Always plays well. I don't think I've ever seen him not play well. The results always don't end up dubious, but
Oh.
that's not how you rate a player. He's been a winner. He is a winner, and he always performs at LAN time. Never seen him play bad. Monkey Moon at number 4. Give me number 5. Number 5 was tough.
Put LJ in. Oh,
Number 5 was tough. Number 5 was tough. I had a lot of names. I could have went Atto, could have went Oski, could have went Yan, could have went Card. But I wanted to go. Could have went Raise Bull, but I went Zen. It's hard to quantify him. I feel like I'm one of the few objective people about this young man. But it's hard to quantify what he's gonna do at LAN. We haven't seen it. It's one thing to be winning regionals. It's another thing to win a RLCS major. And he also isn't better than Alpha. So, but he's on his way. He's winning every single tournament he's played in, and he's been performing. So.
I've got a question. Where's the updated Zen, Alpha, Redocin stats? I saw after Regional 1, you guys had a really big graphic showing that Zen was the worst statistical player out of the team. I know you guys are going to update us on that and let us know how the whole split has gone now that we've got 3 regionals of evidence, not just 1. Who's been the most statistical player on Vitality Tbates after the split is done when you look at all 3 regionals?
In terms of stats?
You guys liked your points per game. That was a big one.
It'd be Rado averages in least points. Alpha averages more than Zen.
That's just not true. Zen has had the most points per game across all 3 regionals on average. If you look at the matches in the top 6, Zen is the most statistically sound player. We need an update on that. Yeah, go look at if you're looking at the top 6.
I'm going to look at this on direct sheet.
Go look at the top 6.
I could have sworn
forget about
Alpha has more score
round
per game
1,
than
2.
Zen. He does.
In regional 1, yes.
And all of them, average combined.
Who is getting the most score per game when in the top 6, like upper semis, winter final, grand final? Who's the most sound statistical player in the team?
I don't know
Zen,
the answer
bro.
to that. Clearly, you
Zen.
might know the answer is Zen. So I guess so. Congratulations. We'll see what they can do with the land.
In the matches that you yourself said are the hardest, the ones where you're winning the event, that's supposed to be the hardest thing. Zen is the best player statistically. So why?
Okay, well then that's why he's on the list. Then he's on the list. Then
That's why he's on the list. You didn't even know that was a thing before.
no, I
That's why
didn't
he's
need
on
to
the
know
list.
the thing. But that gives me more confidence in having him in my top 5. I was a little conflicted. I haven't seen him play land. It was really hard. Cause I put Zen up there. I could put Rawas up there. Like I don't know. So I almost didn't put Zen, but he just dominated Europe. That's how he has. So I feel like he's earned that.
I think not putting Zen on the list is kind of delusional at this point.
Yeah, it's good you
That'd
had
be
him on there.
absurd.
I don't think it's delusional.
It's good you had him on there, Bates.
What is this?
I'm going
Wait,
to give you another icy cold top 5 players list. Now
we're
I
gonna,
played
like, this up
I
the
played
list.
Gibbs' little game. I only limited my picks to 1 player per team. So otherwise, Vitality would dominate this list, and there would be no point. But my list, we'll start number 1. Easy, Zen. There's absolutely no question. When you watch Zen play, it doesn't matter if he's literally this close on the average for score per game with the rest of his team. When you watch his movement, when you watch his awareness, when you see what he can do and how he reads the game versus how everybody else is reading the game, Zen is on a different level, really only comparable by number 2, Vatira. Vatira, even when K-Corp weren't playing that well, Vatira was still trying to drag that team forward. This man has been so consistent, and Zen's an incredible run so far is the only thing that has put him over Vatira, because he has consistently over 3 regionals been better, been more consistent, been more aware.
He has
and
not
that's
been
just
better
really
than
easy.
Vatira.
Number 3, some of y'all missed him, but I did not. Monkey Moon, the man who has led in score per game in the winter split and now the spring split in his own region. Again, it's the same thing. Bates, you love to talk about the eye test, and I know you had Monkey Moon on your list. I got him up just a little bit higher. Number 4, Liquid. We got a Tau. Of course, this guy is absolutely insane. Liquid, one of the only teams to take Vitality to 7. In fact, I think they might be the only team that's taken them to 7 with Zen so far. Tau's a big reason for that. The man is absolutely goated on the sticks. And that leads me to number 5, our new entrance in the major, Roas, coming in with rule 1. This guy, the only guy to snap Zen's 1v1 streak when he went and beat every single best
that guy
1v1
doing
player in the
threes?
world. And then watch him in 3s though, and you see Roas still delivering. He's still at the top statistically. He's dominating these guys. Roas looks amazing. I absolutely believe that this guy can pop off and will pop off on land. I'm excited to see rule 1. I'm excited to see Roas. That's my top 5.
I did not expect that, honestly. I didn't even know that they had that ready for you.
I didn't either. That was
and then it went up, and I was like, oh my goodness. So we did,
Indeed.
we did a poll about who had the best list between me, Raul, and Bates. Raul won. Bates was in last. We're doing
That's
one right
tough.
now with everybody. And right now, Jorby is ahead of everyone with like 218 votes. It just keeps
That's
climbing.
recency bias.
Chat don't even remember my list. It was
Yeah,
like,
it's been so
Flash that list
long.
again.
Yeah, but Johnny, they don't remember your list, but you still are in second place. I don't even.
True.
I
That
just
worked
put
out.
That's okay,
all
though.
Vitality, Vatira, Monkey Moon. So I'm
Oh,
pretty
you
confident.
can't. 3 players on the same team is impossible. Well, it's not
I mean, it's-
impossible.
in double limit actually
it's
isn't, though.
improbable. It's very
could go-
improbable.
But Bates, they could go 5-0 in series, and the next best team would be 4-2 in double elimination. Like the first place team, if they go undefeated, is clear. So it's very possible. And what if they just destroy everybody? I think they might.
Possible.
That's bold.
Speaking of destroy, this is a topic that we brought up in First Touch After Dark that we want to bring here to you guys right now. EU greater than the field. World Days. Is EU clearly ahead of everyone in the world? EU's major teams are arguably the best in the world. What's your thoughts on this?
It's no question. Yes. You saw the list. You just looked at them. All the players are EU. I saw blue on everybody's list. It was majority blue. And I wish it was different, you know. I really do. But when EU can come into NA and show their play style and then dominate for a certain amount of time. We have, I still think, really, really good talent in North America. It's just their play styles, they know how to play the game, and it shows. They go into every major and they win, and we just gotta sit back and try to learn from them. And it's about taking one to the chin and actually accepting that you're wrong, But North America has a hard time doing that. We have too much pride, so I don't know if that's ever going to be done.
Let's pull up Spring Points. Jorby, do you agree with World' take?
I do. I think that while I think there's a team or two that could take some EU teams depending on matchup, I think that this is it's so strong. Moist still kind of out there for me. There's a little inconsistency with them. I'm glad they made it. I think that they could perform well on LAN. I think that roster's good, but I think the top 4 is where the real meat of the region is. And I would take those 4 teams almost over anybody else in the rest of the world right now.
Dang. Johnny, thoughts?
I think probably. I think Vitality, BDS, Karmine Corp just look too good right now. I mean, Karmine Corp are the defending champions. They did not really struggle, did not go to Game 7 for the entire Winter Major with anyone. And now BDS and Vitality are both giving them trouble. So we all know how good Liquid are as well. They're undeniable. I think that the EU top 4 just looks too strong. I mean, the problem is that even if 1 or 2 of them have a bad weekend, there's another 2 teams there. Even Moist have Joy and a lot of potential. So you just feel like at least 1 or 2 of them are going to show up and have a good weekend. And probably I've never been more confident about an all EU final. In fact, I don't think I've ever predicted an all EU final ever. So this will be the first time, but I think that's the likelihood. I think the biggest threat coming out of NA is probably Furia, because they haven't played at an international LAN. They've got their mojo back now, so I think they're the biggest threat. Gen G and Complexity look a little bit out of form. I'm not really convinced by SSG or Optic at the moment, but Furia I think are the team who could go top 4. I would give Furia a bigger top 4 chance of than anyone else.
Their bracket's also favorable for them. Like, they play Moist first, and then they play the winner of Optic, Ninjas in Pajamas. Both of those teams, I'm confident with them winning. So that's it's a really nice path to top 6 before the competition takes a notch up. So I think they definitely benefit from where they are in the bracket. I do think that Space Station are and they're an underdog for me. I think they play so well synergistically. That I feel like that really lends to them maybe surprising some teams. I still rate the EU teams I talked about above them, but if I was going to pick a team that could make a dark horse run, Space Station would probably be near the top of my list for that particular category.
I think they just lack peak ability though. They've got that consistency, but I don't think they can win it. I just don't see it, because they can probably outplace 2 or 3 EU teams, but you need all the EU teams to underperform. Every EU team, well, maybe not Moist. I think Space Station could beat Moist, but you need all 4 of the other EU teams to underperform in order for Space Station to win this event. I just don't think all of them are going to underperform. It's just not something we usually see. So it's hard.
It would be pretty hard. I will say one thing for Optic though, and it's that Optic are really good at bringing teams down to their level. They could potentially do that to Ninjas in Pajamas and Furia, and then maybe an EU team along the way. I just think their play style with how Reddles conducts things when he's on the pitch, that very physical play style. It's not just the physicality, but I think it does force teams to kind of overcorrect, to readjust a lot, which forces mistakes and things like that. I don't think teams play their best ball against Optic. I'm not saying I think Optic are just that good. I think they make other teams look worse. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win, but that might be the only point that I think they have in their favor.
So I don't know. Do you guys think Optic's style is going to be good against Europe though? Because they need teams to sit in net, and Europe doesn't do that. So I don't really see who's Rattle's going to demo. He's going to go demo someone in net. No one's there. They're going to be already challenged in the midfield. So I don't see it really working too well.
Really interesting.
AJ is definitely playing very well right now. So I think AJ can do some work, but I don't know. It's hard to demo active teams.
Yeah, that's fair.
EU defends by challenging, not by goalkeeping.
And yet SSG with Reynolds finished 3rd, 6th, and the 9th through 12th, they lost to NAV1. I think it's very easy I think it's very likely that Optic absolutely implements that physical style because Redos has done it before on multiple lands. It's ever since DreamHack, whatever it was called, Montreal, is proven that he can slap anybody around.
Montreal, we don't need to go into the archives. Like,
okay, well, last year in London, they had Moist beat the best team at the tournament,
and then they lost.
Yeah, because they threw in the kickoff. But that's a discussion for a different type of day. Anyways, is EU clearly ahead of everyone in the world? No. I mean, I've given this question a lot of consideration. I really have. Does EU have the 2 best teams in this land? Yes. But is EU the region clearly ahead of everyone in the world? No.
You're losing credibility, Bates. You're losing credibility fast. You can still save it. It's not too late. You can say you're trolling. You can still back down.
But I'm not losing credibility. I'm speaking nothing but the truth. To say they're clearly ahead of everyone in the world makes it seem as if all 5 EU teams are just going to rinse people.
4.
But they're not. They're 5 EU teams.
I know. 4 out of 5.
Okay, yeah, because you're paid by Furia. They fly you out. They fly you out to.
Wait, we're not talking about Furia. We're talking about EU.
Moist, bro. He means Moist are not like dominant, but the other 4.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the other 4 aren't just gonna walk into this tournament and just win. I just don't see that happening. I've been looking at the bracket.
Yeah.
Carmine versus first off, I didn't get the Carmine. I'm not Carmine. I was talking about Vitality. Liquid Complexity. That's a close match. That's a close match. And
it should be. And
I can see Complexity winning that. It's about a 55-45. We talked about it over there on FT After Dark.
55-45.
But you're saying Liquid is the favorite, though.
No.
You think Complexity is favorite right now in their current form against Liquid?
That's right. I do. I think Complexity is a better team. Complexity is a better team than Liquid. They're a better team than Liquid.
Based on what, though? Based on what?
They won a regional. They finished at the same spot as Liquid last major. And they're both looking good. And Complexity has a better land style. Liquid's very all mechanics, all in. We got to be on our game. Complexity, they got a style. They always stick to it. It's a more simple style of rocking.
What does that even mean, bro? They have a better land style. What does that even mean?
They don't need to rely on mechanics and all that to win. Liquid relies on a lot of mechanical outplays. Complexity doesn't do that. And Complexity does not need to go for all up in the sky pre-jump. Not even pre-jump. Pre-jump is a little extreme, but they can play more.
Raze Bull in the last regional?
Raze Bull can do that, but he doesn't need to do it.
He absolutely needed to do it. That was the Complexity. We're not looking that good, other than Raze Bull.
He doesn't need when they're all playing a solid game. They don't need to do that. AJG goes chase. He goes chase, sets his physicality. Raze Bull fills in the gaps in the CRR. He's been playing a little down, but he performs on lands. We saw it at Gamers 8. We saw it at the Winter Major. I expect him to once again perform again in the Spring Major. He always performs at a land. So going off of that, I would expect Complexity to be a little bit favored.
But like Complexity lost. Who did they lost this split to NRG? Like, how are you calling them better form than Liquid, who only lost to LAN teams? And I think they had lost 1 Game 7 Hogan Mode, who are, in my opinion, extremely legitimate and did excellently in both the regionals they qualified into, and weren't in the running because they failed to qualify. I think it just goes back.
I think it goes back to the comments we got at the beginning of the show. I value winning. Complexity won. Liquid can't do that. They haven't done it. They haven't shown
energy though. Like, that's not a result that you can afford to have happen if you're going to call yourself consistent.
People lose, bro. NRG's not a bad, terrible team. They have 3 really good players. They have 2 really great players and a man who was really great, but he's all right now. But the point being, that's not like you act like they're losing to plumbers.
I mean, no, I don't want to talk about I mean, NRG had a disappointing season. I don't want this to be all about analyzing NRG's disappointing season, but you that's not a series you should be losing as a regional winning team. Complexity, and that's what put them in such a tight scenario. Like, they should have been clearly qualified after regional 2, but they lost to NRG and V1. I don't think
that's the way double elimination works. People lose.
I mean, unless you're the top 4 in EU who consistently won. So no.
Okay, because you have 4 really great teams. You got Moist, who's a really good team. I think who's getting slept on. And then you got Hogan Mode, who's a good-ish team. They had a lot of confidence. And after that, who you got? NA's got really good teams that can win games. And I like
So
regardless.
you don't think G1 are a good team? You don't think G1 are a good team?
They showed that at the major,
You
and then they
think
made a
Oxygen
change.
are a good team? You don't think Oxygen are a good team?
Don't play the game. I love my boy Archie. That's not his problem though. But everybody,
you don't think that PSG is a good team?
PSG,
You don't think Guild were
PSG's
good
an
this
okay
split?
team.
Guild were pretty good. I
Guild's
think Guild
an
were
okay
very good this
team.
split.
They're okay
I'm
teams.
just saying, if you're going to call NRG a good team, and I don't want to trash NRG, I really didn't. I thought it was just going to be like a statement we could all agree with. Yeah, that's a really bad loss for Complexity. But no, I would say Guild, PSG Tundra, Oxygen, G1, Hogan Mode, all these teams are probably better than NRG right now.
That's delusional. That's not. That's not true.
Are we watching the same game?
That's not
really?
true. That's not true at all. That's not true, Justin.
I just think you massively overrate like teams like Shopify and NRG, who are decent teams, but they're not teams that you can.
Shopify is your G1. They're okay.
You're not allowed to lose those teams though. If you're like Complexity, if you're a V1, that's a completely ridiculous loss.
Complexity could beat Liquid, and I also think Complexity could beat Vitality as well. I think people are just overlooking a team like Complexity. Now, if you don't want to call them an NA team, it is what it is. I also think that Furia could beat Moist, and Furia can make a run. I think Optic could also make a run. Gen G going up against BDS, that isn't just a guaranteed BDS win. Gen G, they're major champs. They're major champs, bro. Like that's not like you walking in a series just expecting BDS to sweep them. Like that's not gonna happen. Well, it could happen, but it's unlikely. Like, that's gonna be a tight series. Stop ad-libbing. I don't need your ad-libs paid off, man. Regardless, that's the whole point I'm making. I do believe that Vitality and Carmine are the two best teams at the major. I think that much is obvious. But saying that EU is clear,
who's third?
That's a wrong narrative. I think third. I think there's a lot of teams that could be third. I don't know.
Who's third in your opinion?
You could put Complexity.
No,
Furia.
you. I don't want us putting you.
I honestly don't know who's third, bro.
It's BDS.
I don't know who's third. I really don't know. You could put BDS. I couldn't say that's wrong, but you could put a couple teams there, and one of those teams could be an NA team. SSG, I can't see them winning the tournament, but they could definitely beat teams.
I just think I'd have to see it. I'd have to see it first. NA went 2-6 against Europe and San Diego. Like
that's not the point. That's not the point.
FaZe lost to, well, yeah, but it is kind of the point because you want to pick these teams. You're talking about Complexity, and I will give you this, Bates. Complexity were one of the only NA teams to beat an EU team. They beat Oxygen in 5-3-2 in San Diego, but everybody else, like FaZe losing to G1. You got where's the other one I had? And then FaZe lost to K Corp in the grand finals. Like there's which Dignitas has 2 of these losses. Gen G also lost to Oxygen in 5. Like so you're talking about 2 teams that are FaZe that's not even here now. They went 0-2 against EU. And would you argue that FaZe were definitely 100% number 1 NA in San Diego, and yet they couldn't beat a single EU team in San Diego? So how can you sit here and say with a new crop of teams that it's going to be close when recent results
improved Vitality? It's like
exactly.
EU was being NA, and now BDS and Vitality have both massively improved.
What is this argument, bro? No, there's no hammer, bro. They lost to
hammer, Bates.
They lost to the best team at the tournament, the best team in World and Carmine.
And G1.
FaZe lost to G1.
And then they lost to G1. They lost to G1. G1
two
tossed.
Two teams that didn't qualify because EU's like teams just stopped and improved. Like G1, if you talk to all the EU teams at the moment, based on practice, everybody's thinking G1's better with Oli. Like
I don't care what practice is doing.
I'm just saying, like they've improved and they're still losing because EU at the top is just even more stacked than ever. Liquid and Carmine Corp are every bit as good as they were, except BDS and Vitality have improved. So now you got, instead of just Liquid and Carmine dominating, you got 4 teams at that level. That's why everybody's saying EU is going to be clear, because NA couldn't even they won 25% of series against EU last time, and now EU is better. Well, NA's probably stagnated or dropped off a little bit. That's why we think
I'm not just talking about Rule 1 could potentially win some game. I think it's just disrespectful, and I think it's a bad narrative to act like EU's just gonna come in here and absolutely slap everybody around. This EU versus NA direct comparison. I don't care about the NA versus EU direct comparison. I'm talking about EU versus the world. It says the question is the world, and I don't believe that is the case.
You have a winning record against every region.
EU historically does very well against MENA teams because they get to play against those players all the time on a EU server. MENA teams have got a winning record against NA.
So
losing record
basically,
against
y'all,
EU.
when you say clear, bro, y'all are saying that them boys are gonna come in, they gonna finish first, second, third, fourth, and then maybe like a seventh or something like that.
I'll say top three.
No.
I'll say.
Yeah, I think top three is for sure. Liquid, I feel like are depend on how they feel. Like if Liquid are in peaky mode, I feel like that's like chance for all four of those teams. But I would definitely guarantee top three.
Top three?
The top three European teams. Yeah,
I think
BDS,
top three is
K-Core,
very
Vitality.
likely.
I think the fact this conversation can happen and it's not immediately being shut down by everyone in the entire scene kind of shows you that yes, EU is, at least from what we can tell, clearly ahead. And that I don't think is a bad narrative because underdog stories are really
for
cool.
the first time, I think it's that EU is actually just clearly they're better. Like as in like they're better, not ahead. No. When you mean clearly ahead, I mean like they have the two best teams. There's no question about that. Like Karma and Vitality, clearly better.
So you want to say clearly better and not clearly ahead? Okay,
for
let's go
those
with clearly
two
better
teams,
then. I thought
for
they were
those
the
two
same.
teams, no, I'm talking about Karma and Vitality. They're clearly better. I apologize for the first sentence if that got misconstrued. Karma and Vitality clearly better, and I think that since they have no competition right now, I think everybody's jumped onto it, and now they're taking that and attributing it to the whole entire EU region as a whole,
Hold
which
on.
is
Did you just say
absolutely
that
crazy.
Karma do not have any competition right now?
Karma
outside
and
of
Vitality don't have any competition.
They don't have any competition, such as second-seeded BDS, who beat Karma twice this split.
Liquid, who took Vitality to 7, the only team to do that, I think. Still,
Like what, bro? Like this is why
Johnny,
people don't see your argument because it's so ridiculous to say things like this. But I think the underdog story is cool. I think NA, if like half the lands that they've won have been massive underdog stories. Like I know it's a long time, but IBP season 1, that was a massive underdog story. EU was expected to dominate and IBP beat them. Cloud9 season 6, EU was expected to dominate, Cloud9 won. Those are some of the most memorable lands in Rock League history, and it's because they were underdog victories. If an NA team can win this event, that will be one of the most memorable wins, because when you watch the regions going in, EU looks so clearly ahead based on the gameplay and based on last event, and the fact that now there's more good teams in Europe, whereas NA is kind of struggling. If an NA team wins, that is going to be so memorable, and I don't see how that's a bad
I don't think it's going to be that
narrative.
memorable. I think it's just going to be a win. Because I think it's just people are... If people
How is that a better narrative, though? You said it's a bad narrative to say EU's dominating. What is the interesting element that
they're
you just
not
said?
dominating, though. You have two really good teams.
What is interesting about what you
hang
just
on.
said, though? You said it's a bad narrative to say EU's dominating. I'm saying no, it's not, because if NA wins while they're underdogs, that is incredible. And now you're just saying, oh, no, it's just a win. How is that a better narrative to just say, it's a win is a win? Who cares? They're all the same.
you can play it
That's a bad
hypothetically,
narrative.
Johnny. All you got to ask is like the Space Station, if they win the major, that would be completely unexpected. And you know what's going to happen on the first episode of First Touch back from the major? Everybody said that Europe is this, Europe that, they were going to
Exactly.
dominate. And
Exactly.
and that's exactly how it's going to go. And you'd be like, nobody gave Space Station a chance. And you're telling me
Yeah.
you aren't going to remember that?
And that's memorable.
Honestly-
That is so memorable. That's like a
honestly-
great narrative.
Honestly, it's gotten so drastic how much people are acting like EU's just gonna go stomp everybody that I'm just gonna let all the people who ain't talking right now do it. I'm gonna be tame. I'm gonna be tame about it. I'll have no need to rub it in. I'm gonna let everybody, because there's a silent mass who just ain't talking right now because we just have to the people have to deal with it. It's coming though. It's gonna be bad if EU don't win. Oh man, it's gonna be bad for EU.
He's actually spitting. I'm
Now,
not
he's
even
gonna
gonna
be
lie,
bad
he's
for
actually
EU.
spitting.
I won't have to say anything. I'll let Twitter do the talking. I'll
Well,
let
that's
Reddit do
kind
the
of the point.
talking.
That's kind of the
They
point. Is
coming.
that it
That's-
is so,
that's
the point.
it's so
That is
far,
a
it's so
good-
far out of the
that's
realm
a
of
good
possibility
narrative.
that if it happens, yeah, exactly.
No, I don't
that's
think
a
it's
good
that.
thing.
I think it's that there's so much. EU's finally happy that EU, as in Vitality and Carmine, are just that much better, and it appears to be. Like it appears, but nobody knows this. Is why I'm not buying this clearly ahead argument. It appears to be that EU's playing better Rocket League, but nobody knows that for sure until we see it on land. So everybody's just jumping on it, saying EU's just way better. But we'll see. We'll see.
I'm gonna back Bates on this one. Mainly, Johnny, like I see your point about BDS making top 3 or being in the top 3, but I feel like starting in lower round 1 is just gonna be really tough for them. So I don't know if they'll be able to
I
actually
think
make
it's
that
a
run
free
all the
win,
way
to be
through.
honest. I don't see any
Free
problems for
win?
BDS in Jin round 1. I don't think they're going to have any difficulty.
Johnny,
They're
I'll be
very,
there
very
with
confident against
I'll be there with my
Jack
GG
and
number
Nolly.
1 racing jacket. I'll be there watching. Ooh, do I know? I hope one of us is on that. I really hope one of us
Next
is on that, so you
topic.
can have a first look at that specific matchup. That being said, let's talk about. We've been talking about Sam for left and right. Let's go. Fury and Complexity both win spring regionals in North America. Sam is taking over NA. We're gonna run some Fury highlights. Jorby, I'm gonna give you the stage, baby. Talk to me about these boys.
Oh man, it's finally time. The boys have finally arrived. You know, they made the trade to Lost in winter. Lost clearly was a little shaken mentally. The NA field, as Bates liked to say when Furia first moved here, it's a lot different than it is in South America, and I absolutely agree with him on that. But Lost, the environment he's had around him has been excellent. You know, talking to Mateus, their coach, and talking to him about how he's handled loss in those situations where, you know, he did crumble under the pressure. But then regional 3, man, was just all the work finally being put together. You saw the work happening, 2 straight top 6s in the spring split, and then they really came together well here. Yan, consistent. He's so much more patient as a player now. Selflessness has increased. Card, in my opinion, one of the most underrated players in the world. I think people consistently underrate this guy and his consistency. And then, but Lost was the big one, the disruptor. It was Lost in the first man role that really impressed me the most. The leaves, the misdirection, the bumps, setting up Yan and Card for success. They're still an aggressive team. Sometimes they still get ahead of themselves. But the biggest thing for me was staving off the reverse sweep against Space Station. Like, that to me encapsulated what the problem was with Furia for the last 2 splits. All up here. All mental. And the fact that they recovered there and they beat that, to me, that was them getting over that hump. And now the chains are off, and I'm worried for most other teams in the world right now, because a confident Furia going into LAN after they haven't been there for several majors. I mean, it's just impressive. You beat Space Station not just once, but twice. That was their literal boogeyman. The one team that they just couldn't get by no matter what. And then they do it twice to them in the same regional. It was telling for me.
I'm just happy for Jorby.
Honestly,
Feels good, man.
I'm happy
Feels
for
good
Jorby,
to watch
man.
the king be back, baby.
I'm happy for Jorby. We need to get some Boras in the chat. Happy for Jorby. Happy for Furia. Happy for Complexity. That's good. I'm happy for them. They're going to get NA more spots. Come on now. Take away spots from Sam.
Let's flip it to the topic. Opinions on NA transfers are split, because there's been a lot of conversation about transferring to different regions, so and so. And of course, as you can see, transfers from North America are taking over. Bates had some specific thoughts on this. I want to start off with Tim, because he can definitely explain this a lot better than I can.
Oh, what do you mean? What do you mean explain? The question is, the opinions on NA transfers are split. Is it good? Is it a good thing that NA has 3 teams that ain't from NA? I say the answer is no. I think we talked about it a little bit. I don't think it's a good thing. From a perspective of, if I'm an NA fan, I want to see NA teams. So other people will find a good thing. I think it's good for the players who come over. They can play in a position that allows them to compete in a more competitive region, make more money, have a more consistent backing, help their families back at home. That's great for them. I'm never going to try to take that away from people. But in terms of NA, nah. In terms of NA, nah. It's not good for NA. And I think it's bad for the people underneath in NA. I think people just talk about the top 5 teams, but then it hurts the bubble players coming up and everything. I understand it's hard to be pro and everything, but at some point, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of that aspect. I like seeing people who are from the region. If that's the point, what's the point of region? At that point, you might as well just have everybody playing NA.
I think it's a good thing right now, because it kind of, in my opinion, it shows without a shadow of a doubt that NA, was like just completely open for these teams to come in. The fact that all 3 import teams have qualified is kind of crazy. I do see your point. The long term, you as an NA viewer, you want to see NA teams play, but now NA teams and NA players have to just accept the fact that they are worse than those teams and they have to improve. and they shouldn't, be looking at fixing the rules in their favor, saying, no, these teams shouldn't be allowed to be here. They should be, accepting the challenge and proving that they are good enough to defend their region's spots. Because, losing to every import team it's pretty embarrassing for a lot of the pro players, I'm sure, who probably thought when Gen G Furia came over that they were just going to easily beat them. So I think it's a bit of a reality check that NA teams and pros probably needed. It'll most likely give them a bit of a bruised ego for a while, but I think they can learn from that and be better and work harder. But yeah, long term, I see your point. I don't know what the solution for that is. Because I like all the teams that moved over. I like the players in those teams. I think they're all very exciting teams. So for me, it's interesting. I can totally see your point.
Yeah, I think that I'm still kind of split on it because I feel the way you do, Johnny, that it's exciting to watch these teams come over and perform well because they are better teams or they are the better teams. I also like it for the expansion regions, like South America in particular. Had Furia and Complexity not moved over, I don't think that your secrets, your crews, your ninjas in pajamas get nearly as much development as fast as they do. So you are indirectly kind of making another region better. But I do also agree with Tbates' take that, long term, you may have less interest from native players playing in your league because it's just simply impossible with all these import teams coming in. So I'm open. I've heard one specific rule change thing that I'm not averse to, which is you have to have a native born player, like one native born player on your team. If you want to move over and compete in the region. I have not fully explored the pros and cons of that, but to me, it seems like a potential compromise to have. I think that one's difficult though, because in the case of Furia, they would have rather picked up another Brazilian than try to make it work with an NA player, someone completely fresh, completely new to the NA scene, someone they knew was going to take time to adjust to the environment. So I don't know if I think that would maybe not be a benefit for teams in those expansion regions to move into NA. And I think that because of the opportunities, we've talked about all of that before. I don't know if we want to discourage teams from doing that. I don't think that we should discourage teams from moving if they want to move to a more competitive region. The solution though is pretty hard to think about. I don't know. So I'm kind of split on it a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Johnny, I want to go back to what you said. Do you think that, so in terms of your favor of, or your point on teams transferring to North America, do you feel that way about the rest of the world too? With teams moving to APAC and Sub-Saharan Africa and things like that?
Well, see, it's a different kind of situation because when you're moving to APAC, when you're moving to OCE, when you're moving to Sub-Saharan Africa as a already, dominant team who have had years of practice on a major server, you're going in with a huge advantage. Whereas, players coming from South America to North America to play in NA, RLCS, they're coming from years of being disadvantaged. It's a less competitive ranked server, which is how everybody starts learning the game. So their entire careers, essentially, they've been at a disadvantage, and then they go over to NA and they show that even with the disadvantage of years of playing on a less competitive server, they're still able to qualify and beat NA teams who have had every advantage in the world, more competitions, more prize money, more competitive practice, and you still lose. There's no excuses for NA teams losing to SAM teams who have had less advantages. But obviously, if an NA team moved to APAC, they would be the team with every advantage. That's a different, I think, scenario. And I think that the expansion regions should probably have, I don't think the discussion's the same. I think that the moving to expansion regions, you're almost punching down. You're saying, no, we've had every advantage and now we're even going to take what little they do have. Whereas if you're moving to NA from SAM, they've already had so much that you shouldn't be any team shouldn't be losing to SAM. I think credit to the SAM teams for proving that it's possible and doing the impossible.
Don't you agree that playing better comp will in turn make you better? This is a discussion we've had on bubble players, why they can't perform or why they can't compete is because they're not getting practice against better players. So South American rosters that come over to North America generally start off maybe slightly worse, but they will ultimately improve, which is what we're seeing now. I think the same thing would go for an NA player moving to a different region would improve that region because those players would get to play against a better team. Isn't it
Yeah,
vice versa?
I think that when a team like Elevate moves to APAC, that does no pun intended, elevate the region, because if they're part of the ecosystem and if they practice with teams in the region and compete against them in tournaments regularly, that's good practice. You learn by losing, so that in effect elevates winning in APAC has probably raised the second, third, fourth best teams, but the situation in NA is I think a little bit different. The bubble players and the teams on the come up, I think sometimes want everything to just be handed to them, and they want to just automatically get scrims, just offers from other teams without actually doing anything to earn it. Whereas Furia didn't just those players didn't convince their org to move them to NA by losing. They did that by being consistently high placements at LANs, international LANs. They finished top 6 at Winter Major last season, top 6 at Spring, top 4 at Worlds. But if they didn't do that, their org isn't going to go, oh yeah, you guys came last at every international LAN, let's go to North America. It's because they won. So they didn't get it for free, like a lot of bubble players and bubble teams kind of want it to be handed to them. Go and beat all the top teams in your region, and then now suddenly you're going to get more eyes looking at you. These are all open tournaments, all open qualifiers. There's no gatekeeping in an RLCS event. Anyone can qualify. So I don't really see it as being the same problem. I think NA's just got to step it up, because they've lost 3 spots to 3 import teams. They got to respond now by grinding harder, improving, looking at those losses. V1, looking at how they lost to Complexity, how they lost to Furia, and trying to learn from that instead of saying these teams shouldn't be here. Well, let's just pretend those losses didn't happen. Which, by the way, I don't think is how V1 are operating. Just explaining the.
I would say that
this.
Furia would never be as good as they are now if they didn't play in Sam and didn't get to have the 2 spots and then end up at the majors and didn't improve. They would never have gotten there. I just want to make that clear.
So
if they came up through the NA bubble, that wouldn't have happened.
So you think that Yan and Lost and Card, if they were always North American players, they would not have been as good as they are now?
At the point they are now, no, because it's a little bit different. And that's just how it works. They didn't have the LAN experience, and I think that's very clear.
I think they would have been even better, bro, because they would have had even more practice over the years, better quality practice. And these guys, the talent they have for the game is just simply better than a lot of the teams in NA.
That's not the point. There's plenty of great bubble players, but we got
not that great though. Furia's ridiculous.
I think that this is a great conversation for another day. Because we are over our cable time slot, ladies and gentlemen. First touch has to conclude right now. I'm so sorry. We had so much more we want to get to, but the discussions just keep going. So, of course, be sure to check out all of us on all of our socials, because the topics, the conversations are not going to stop here. There's definitely a lot of stuff we want to be able to get to, but that will be saved for another time. Of course, Jorby, Johnny, thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Great time as always.
Thank you, guys.
Of course, shout out to Raul and Tbates and all you guys for watching and staying locked in. Of course, First Touch will be at the Spring Major. Myself and Bates will be there. Raul will be doing some watch parties at home. So, of course, be sure to check that out. It'll be super, super fun. It'll be great to see you guys there. Obviously, if you guys are going to the Spring Major, let us know at First Touch RL. We'd love to be able to see you guys, interact with you guys at any point. And, of course, let us know who you think you guys have winning, because that's going to be super important. We want to see your guys' prediction brackets as well. Ours will probably go out sometime soon. But on behalf of the staff, everybody working behind the scenes to make this show what it is, thank you guys so much for all of your hard work. On behalf of Psyonix for allowing us to run this show, we really do appreciate that opportunity. And, of course, to the fans at home watching, thank you guys. Spring Major's coming up soon. We will see you guys in Boston. Till then, 1, 2, toodaloo.